Welcome back to the CyberVault. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Ravi Srivatsav. Ravi is the CEO at Data Krypto. And today, we're going to be talking about data and AI, two very hot topics in security right now. We're going to be talking about the vulnerabilities people are unaware of, the new threat vectors we're often facing, and touch base on what the future of data might look like. Ravi, thank you so much for joining me here today. Why don't you kickstart and maybe give us a quick intro to yourself?
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. Yeah, like I was introduced, I'm Ravi Srivatsav. I'm the co-founder, CEO of Data Krypto. We at Data Krypto are in the business of AI and data security. At Data Krypto, we have pioneered securing end-to-end AI via encryption. That means every model, every data set, including the user prompts, will always be encrypted without any performance hit. We approach this challenge with a cryptographic foundation, giving you the cryptographic assurance, leveraging fully homomorphic encryption for all of the encrypted computations. And we combine that with trusted execution environment. I was previously holding engineering and product leadership roles at IBM, NTT Research, and Microsoft. And most recently, I was a partner at Bain & Company in Silicon Valley.
Awesome. Well, Ravi, I'm excited to have you on. And I think you already demonstrated there, but you really know your stuff when it comes to this space. And that is very much what we're going to talk about because, like we say, data and AI is a hot topic. And in particular, kind of what we're going to dive into is the value of encryption. But I think one of the things that we should really start with here is the fact that I think the biggest problem in this market is the fact that there's a continuous flow of new threat vectors. And people don't always necessarily realize what this looks like. So what are you seeing right now in the space as some of those key threat vectors that are really coming into fruition?
Look, AI models, like any other software, is susceptible to attacks. Common types of AI specific attacks are, maybe very familiar with these terms, adversarial attacks. Subtly manipulating input data to trick the AI model into making incorrect decisions or predictions without any humans noticing them. You have your data poisoning, which is common, where nefarious actors can inject malicious data into the training data set, causing the AI model to learn faulty patterns, including biases, as an example. The other problems are your model inversion techniques, where it's a process where an attacker can extract sensitive information from the model, such as your private data, using training through repeated queries. You have multiple inference attacks, where an attacker can infer whether a particular data point was part of the training data set or not, which could lead to privacy breaches. Now, at the core of all of this is the why and what is the problem statement, right? Like you introduced earlier on, AI operates on data, and more importantly, it operates on unencrypted data. Now, with more and more companies adopting Gen AI, the adoption of Gen AI has outpaced all of the security controls at such an unprecedented rate that many new attack surfaces have emerged. Your traditional cybersecurity solutions won't be enough to protect any of your proprietary data. Protecting this AI data and model requires a new approach. Now, it's this AI security paradox that we are facing, right? The same set of properties that make your Gen AI very valuable, that means it's the ability for it to process, synthesize, and generate good information for you from vast data sets within your organization, also creates unique set of security vulnerabilities that your traditional security frameworks weren't designed to address. And this has made a CIO or a CISO's job increase tenfold. Think of your organization's security as many layers of onion, and at the core, is your data and your intellectual property. Um, you have many of these layers of security around this particular core, right? Protecting data isn't just another layer of security stack. It's the core functionality. Every other security measure, like your firewall, your SIEM, ultimately exists to defend your data, your business that your business runs on, right? However, traditional approaches have left a glaring gap. Data is only protected at rest or in transit, but not when it is being used. That is the single biggest risk in the modern security stack, especially as AI and analytics drive unprecedented data utilization. It's that data, while it is in use, is always in clear.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, you make it sound pretty scary. But it is. That's the thing, right? This is like, I don't think people quite realize how vulnerable their data is. And they don't, it's like you say, they can kind of see, oh, we've got it protected in this environment or in this. And the assumption is then that that information, that data is secure. Especially when you look at the adoption of things like Gen AI, there's everybody's kind of, embracing the fact that you can suddenly automate or make so many of those mundane tasks significantly easier in your day-to-day job. What do you think some of the main, I suppose, vulnerabilities people don't necessarily realize they're maybe kind of putting themselves at risk of?
Your data used to live in one place in your traditional data center world that you exist. However, with the adoption of hybrid cloud, multi cloud, and now with AI, your data exists everywhere across clouds, across devices, and AI agents are multiplying this risk exposure significantly. That's the single biggest challenge. Your prompts, your user queries, and models always constantly require access to your data, which is sensitive. To me, securing data is a fundamental human right. But every time a user sends a prompt to the model, whether it's a public model or you've hosted a model internally within your organization that you have fine tuned, doesn't really matter. The user is giving a lot of context to the model. The prompts have your medical diagnosis, it could have your financial information. There are a lot of private information that users send to these models, and these AI models receive them in clear. And that's, again, a vulnerability. Um, AI agents exacerbate the problem even further. AI agents are fantastic. They are very powerful, but at the end of the day, they have the ability to have an access into your environment, to access your data from your AI systems, and go and take an independent decision on behalf of you. Fantastic, but they have access to your data, and that data isn't clear. These two problems have to be solved ASAP.
No, and on that subject, because you're right, so many companies are adopting AI agents, and again, it makes sense, right? This is a really great tool that if you can leverage, why wouldn't you? But it's like you mentioned, there's some big risks there with it, and I suppose, not. I think there's a huge percentage of people that make the assumption that because a product is out there, that it's secure. And I think kind of, that there's always that thing that, well, if a company's selling this or offering this or so on, that it's a safe thing to use. Our data, our information is going to be, in safe hands here. Um, you touched base there, but what do you think kind of are some of the key vulnerabilities that people are really going to have to look at if it comes to, okay, we're adopting an AI agent. This is what we're going to have to do to make sure it's secure, because otherwise, these are the consequences we're really going to face.
How are they going to treat your data? Um, is it just trust me, brother? I'm going to treat your data well. That is enough. Can you give me a? See, I am a little biased in this one. As a security person, I am paranoid about giving my data to anybody in the organization, let alone outside. Um, So just trusting somebody based on an NDA isn't enough. I want cryptographical assurance. I want to make sure that while you use my data to perform a certain action on my behalf, that you yourself don't have access to that data in clear. And very few can do that, but technology has evolved where you can give this cryptographical assurance. But yeah, you are ultimately responsible for adopting these AI agents and the consequences of that decision. So you have to ensure as a CIO or as an IT persona that while you adopt these technologies, you want that assurance that can be foolproof, which is, in my opinion, a cryptographical assurance that the data that was taken on behalf of you to perform a certain action was never in clear, was never available to any other services. Um, and that's the only way to go about it. If not, you're exposing your attack surface now is not just your environment, not just your cloud, but also since your data is in a third party agent, that becomes your attack surface as well. So you got to be extremely cautious when you adopt these agents to ask these fundamental questions. How do you treat my data? Let alone the regulatory aspects of GDPR or HIPAA or any of the regulatory. It used to be a checkbox. Encryption has always been a checkbox for a CIO, but now it is what you really need to assure you that your data that you are exposing from your organization out is in safe hands and it cannot be touched for any other reason.
Yeah. And I think kind of well, if we've got a company that's in the position that they've gone, okay, right, we've recognized that here are the vulnerabilities and so on. I think the next big challenge, especially as a CISO, a CIO, or whatever the role may be, is to then go, okay, well, how do we solve this issue? Because I think one of the most frustrating things that a lot of these executives are feeling right now is how noisy this space is. How many people are working in this market offering kind of the solution that's going to save them from everything, but actually that a lot of them aren't. A lot of them are more just kind of, it's like, it looks pretty on the outside, but maybe isn't actually doing exactly what you need it to do. What do you think kind of are some of the technologies where people should really focus on? Look, these are the kind of solutions that you really should be prioritizing because they're all expensive. People don't have the budgets to go out and just use everything and cross their fingers and hope for the best. So yeah, what would you say? Look, these are the key verticals that you should really be prioritizing when it comes to the security element.
Yeah, I mean, I have regular conversations with CIOs, and the common answer is, of course, for a well-funded company, is we never say no to any technology solution. If it's good, we'll adopt it. But most of these solutions that are out there, I mean, they mean well. They mean well in the form of reporting something happened in your organization. A lot of dashboards. In fact, dashboards of dashboards exist inside organizations. Um, and to what end? I think we have come to a point in our journey in security where you can move past just pure dashboards. Um, Reactive security approaches are not right. Reporting vulnerabilities and saying this is what actually happened in your environment yesterday, so let me protect it from tomorrow onwards. Um, I think proactive security is extremely critical. And we've been talking about proactive security for a long time. And there are technologies available within this layers of onions that I talked about that are fairly good at proactively, like, you have your firewalls, you have your endpoint protections, you have your rules on your IAM, your DLP, your SIEM. They all have capabilities to proactively stop certain kind of attacks. But security is not like, hey, here is one stack that here's one tool that I'm going to give you that is going to protect everything in your organization. So if I'm a CIO or a CISO, as I'm evaluating technologies, I want to see, is this yet another dashboard that is going to overwhelm my team? Or is this going to actually do something for me on my behalf that can be controlled in terms of behavior through either a list of rules that I can put in place, or some policies that I can make, or can it leverage some of the historicals that I have had and learn from it and take action on my behalf? So moving to that direction is, I think, warranted from an industry perspective.
Yeah, super interesting. And I think, it's really valuable advice because it's literally like you say, nobody can solve everything. But at the same time, you're just spending a load of money on all these different products and solutions. One thing is they also can't always communicate with each other. So then you are left with like these gaps of, oh, you've got this and that and the other, but actually as a whole, there's no synergy there, which I suppose is probably a whole other topic on its own when it comes to this side. But I kind of what I want to really explore at this point now, Ravi, because I think we've covered some really valuable content here, and I think it's really relevant to some of the biggest problems people are facing, or arguably don't necessarily realize that they're facing, and hopefully now do. But this is a hot space right now, but it's a rapidly kind of the momentum here is pretty significant. What do you think are the next steps? What does the future look like? Kind of where do we go from here?
Yeah, I get scared every time somebody asks me the question, "What does tomorrow look like?" And my today is really bad, as in, um, this moment in journey that we are in our evolution curve is unprecedented in terms of the amount of data, an amount of compute that is available, an amount of amazing technology that we have in our hands today, that has exposed a new set of threat vectors that we are not solving for while we plan for tomorrow. My recommendation or my prediction in this space is, let's solve for today's problem and do the best possible, because um, you don't know what tomorrow looks like. And we've always been talking about, let's say, post quantum. Yes, post quantum is going to break the existing encryption as we know it, but we're not there yet. When I was 24, they said post quantum is 3 years from now. Um, and yeah, I'm in my late 40s and I still, we're a year, 2 years away from it being a reality. Um, but in the meantime, I have problems that I need to fix. So we took this problem very closely when we were actually building our product out and said, okay, so yes, FHE, fully homomorphic encryption, um, can be post quantum, quantum proof, if you will. Let's incorporate that into AI. And if you combine FHE with a trusted execution environment, we finally have a way to keep data protected at the heart of the stack, that is, during use, not just at rest, not just in transit, but while in use as well. That is the fundamental shift. That is, continuous encryption plus hardware enforced isolation means that your data remains protected at all times, no matter how aggressively it is being leveraged by AI or analytics. And that's what we do at Data Krypto. Um, now, um, my prediction, of course, is that more and more companies will realize, as more and more attacks happen and that the data gets exposed, that there will be increased pressure on on startups and other enterprise software companies to build very data secure solutions.
Yeah. And I think and what you guys are doing at Data Crypto is extremely valuable because it's like you say, it's that you kind of your data secure in certain parts right now, but it's there's basically there's a lot of gaps for vulnerability here, and I think encryption is key because it doesn't matter if your data gets stolen, if they can't access it, they can't do anything with it, the value is kind of lost. And we used the analogy earlier of it's great to be able to kind of put out fires, but the damage is done. But if those trees are protected or that whatever's protected, then the fire can only do so much damage, if any damage at all. And the downside of security is you can never be 100% effective in kind of you're always going to be at risk. There's always going to be vulnerabilities. But if you're protected, should somebody get through that front door, I suppose then that's really where the secret in the sauce lies.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's actually important. I mean, it's a very important point. I'll stress it again. Security is always a compromise. You put the best effort, and it's a compromise. It's a continuous compromise. And my CIO and CISO colleagues in your viewership will agree that it's a compromise that you continuously make. But are we making the best effort? And that's the question that we always have to ask. But with our approach, your AI model, your proprietary models that you actually have fine-tuned with your organizational IP. Yes, you spent billions of dollars building your business, and now you fed all of that data into this AI model. Now, how important is this AI model? Of course, it's very critical because this holds the IP of your company. Your very existence is in this AI model. If for some reason this model gets stolen, it becomes the single biggest attack surface, right? I mean, I want to steal that model of this pharma company because I can get the formulas. You have to encrypt it in such a way that it makes the life of the nefarious actor that much more difficult. And so, it's not worthwhile pursuing you. That's one. That means you have to do everything that to make sure that your model is protected. Only authorized users and model owners can perform any inference or access the model content. That is one. The LLM provider, let's say you're using somebody else's LLM. LLM provider should not be able to view the user data or the query or even what the query was and what the response was. Right? That is very critical because that's a fundamental human right, your privacy. Now, of course, you always have to protect your models and your data from malicious alterations to training data and parameters, extremely critical. So we take these things very, very seriously as we are designing our solution. And of course, we've gotten a ton of feedback from our enterprise customers, and we always thank them for that.
No, and I suppose that's how you know when you're doing the right kind of problem solving, really, isn't it? And that's the joy of security. It's constant stage of R&D. You can never hit perfection because something new comes in. But Ravi, honestly, thank you so much for this great conversation today. Like we've mentioned, this is a very hot topic right now. It's great to get your perspective, and to be honest, it's lovely to be able to deep dive into it, as scary as some of the realities are in this space. But arguably, you've got to understand where the risks are to be able to start to fix them, or at least put those practices in place to, I suppose, be able to put the fire out when the time happens. But if to any of our listeners, if some of this resonated with you today, I highly recommend reaching out to Ravi or some of the team at Data Krypto. I think it's very exciting kind of things that they're bringing forward here, and super, super relevant, as you've been able to hear. As always, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure to share this episode with any of your security peers. And get connected with us on LinkedIn. But that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time. And again, Ravi, thank you to you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.